We are online today and on the record for purposes of a review of qualified residential treatment programming as well as jurisdiction. May I have the names of our participants, please?
Lee Heiss, lawyer, guardian ad litem.
Ms. Saja Thomas, counsel for the department.
Karen Skvinsky, foster care worker for the department.
Ms. Berger, we're ready for you whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Ariel Berger here on behalf of Mother Vanessa Eberly.
Ms. Eberly, if you could introduce yourself, please.
I'm Vanessa Eberly.
Right. And then we'll go to Ms. Elizabeth Wickland. I know you were unmuting there in anticipation.
I am Elizabeth Wickland, clinical case manager at DART of Hope Network and work directly with Dylan.
Yeah, and I see we have Ms. Franklin with us this afternoon. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Jennifer Franklin, therapist for Vanessa Eberly.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, Ms. Heiss, ready when you are.
Thank you, Your Honor. I was able to visit with the child and observe his needs are being met in his current residential placement. Had some time with his with a care provider in his environment. I've attended some FTM with Ms. Wickland and the care team, and it is my recommendation that the placement continue. Dylan is benefiting from this. I think it's hard in the middle to be patient and trust sometimes. Mother sometimes, I think, reminds us that she's lived with him his whole life and that she has a long history with him, and she asked for help for him and he needed this help, and now we have to let the professionals take over. One of the hard parts is that Dylan isn't seeing his family at this point. I mean, his mother. In this review period, we found that the DNA matched this person that he has grown up knowing as his father. So that is a benefit and a good turn. So those people both have been, mother and father have both been participating in case planning, and he's where he needs to be. I would recommend continuing placement in a review in another 90 days. Thank you.
Ms. Thomas.
Thank you, Honor. Ms. Skvinsky, can you please be sworn in?
Come on up to our witness stand.
Today, for today's hearing, you have provided us with a court report. Oh goodness, I just closed out your cover letter. I just want to make sure that we all have the same documents that you've provided to everyone. There's the court report, a case service plan for Ms. Eberly, is that correct?
Yes.
And then the treatment plan for her as well, in addition to the case service plan. And then there is a report from the DART program and a behavior treatment plan for the youth, and then the DNA test results. Is that correct?
Yes.
Are there any other documents that you've received since you've submitted the report and the attachments?
Just the ICWA paperwork that we have mailed out.
Okay. And ICWA, can you explain a little more how ICWA became relevant in this matter?
Yes. So when Michael O'Connor did his DNA test, he marked down there that he was Native American. After asking him about it, he denied that he's Native American, but we still did the paperwork just to be proactive.
And so you sent that to the BIA?
Yes.
Okay. And today, the documents that you have, you and I had a chance to discuss them before this hearing, correct? Okay. And at this point, you do not have a returned green receipt, correct?
No.
Okay. Are you comfortable waiting to admit those to the court until we have the green card?
Yes.
Okay. And what other efforts, I know that you just briefly stated this, but I believe you made other efforts to determine whether Native American heritage is, and if this child has any Native American heritage. Can you just briefly summarize other efforts that you made?
Yep. So I tried to communicate with Mike and Vanessa if they knew anything, and they told me they both denied that they're Native American and that they don't know their family history. And so I had called Vanessa's mother and Mike's mother, and both of them denied being Native American as well.
Thank you for those efforts. Okay, as it relates to the current permanency goal, what is the permanency goal for this youth at this time?
reunification.
And where is the youth currently placed?
He's placed in Grand Rapids at the Hope Network DART program.
And that is a residential treatment program?
Yes.
And one of the things that needs to happen when a youth is in a residential treatment program is reviewing or discharge planning, I suppose, knowing what goals need to be achieved in order for the youth to be successful in the community again. Has there been any progress towards those goals at this time?
I would say minimal. Dylan still needs to work on his mental health treatment.
And at this time, the youth is not ready for discharge, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And during this review period, how would you describe Ms. Everly's compliance with and benefit from her case service plan?
I would say with the entirety of the case service plan, partial. I think I had sent the referral for her to do Love and Logic with Renee, and she hasn't participated in that yet. Communication with Dylan and parenting time, Dylan's requesting not to do it, so that makes it a little bit difficult for them to see each other, but we also have to respect Dylan's wants and needs.
To the extent possible, is Ms. Everly doing what she can though to at least like maintain contact with him?
Yeah, she's sending him letters as like we recommended to her to send him letters, and she's been doing that weekly.
Okay. Wonderful. And have you had a family team meeting during this review period?
Yes, many.
And has it been discussed what needs to happen, or I guess what it would look like in order for the youth to have parenting time with his parents?
Yeah, Dylan needs to be able to talk about his trauma and talk about his mental health. Right now, he is not in a place to talk about it. He just acts out. Like the way he shows his emotions is in his behaviors. So he just needs to work on his mental health treatment with his clinician.
To the best of your ability, have you been able to discuss with his clinician or the clinical team about how long that might take? I know it's a really broad and hard question.
I mean, we have talked about it. We've mostly talked about how Dylan is doing, like when he's going through periods of getting better, but not like a time frame of when he'll be ready.
Do the parents seem to understand the clinical approach at this time?
No.
To the best of your knowledge, do you know if the like the treatment team for mom or any of the professionals she's working with are in contact with any of the professionals that are working with the child?
Minimally.
Is there anything that you can do to help coordinate that communication?
Yep, so I added to my case service plan that we would like to meet every 6 weeks, like Vanessa, her therapist, clinician at DART, so that we can all be on the same page.
Other than the youth's mental health and need for residential treatment, are there any other barriers to reunification? Ms. Everly has appropriate housing, transportation, employment, all of those things. Is there any other concern about reunification on her part?
Yeah, I would say like the risk remains the same as removal, which would be physical neglect, mental injury, and proper supervision. So.
And what services are being offered specifically to address those risks that you just mentioned?
So I refer Vanessa to do Love and Logic with Renee Moore. She is in her therapy with Jennifer Franklin. I'm looking for another Love and Logic class. There's another one coming up in February at Springbrook Middle School, and I'm also looking for ABCs of ACEs so that she can get sufficient amounts of parenting education.
This youth, I believe, had a trauma assessment, correct?
Yes.
And any of those recommendations, has she been able to comply or complete any of those recommendations?
From Dylan's trauma
Yes.
assessment? I can't be sure.
Okay. Do you recall if you've incorporated those into the case service plan at all?
Yes, they're incorporated in the case service plan, yeah.
Okay. At this time, do you believe that the youth's educational and physical needs are being met at the program?
Yes, I do.
To the best of your knowledge, do you know if the youth is at least reading the letters that Miss Eberly is sending him?
He is always given the option to read them, so she sends them once weekly, and it's like Dart meets with him daily, his clinician, and it's like, would you like to read it today? Maybe the next day. He doesn't read every single one, but some of them he reads, and then he's always given the option if he wants to keep a paper copy of it and if he wants to reply.
Is there anything from your report or the other attachments that you've included that you would like to highlight for the court's attention?
No, I don't think so.
And then as it relates to paternity, we did, as Ms. Heiss note, that we did receive the DNA results, correct?
Yes,
And you included them for today's hearing?
yes.
And I asked, I should have asked this in the beginning, that the court and attorneys have the documents that were reviewed at the beginning of testimony.
I have them.
Ms. Berger, do you have all those?
I do.
Okay, I do as well, yes.
Thank you. And have you had the opportunity to meet with the biological father?
Yeah,
And do you know his intent and whether he intends to take action to become legal father, or if he's okay if our court makes him legal father?
it was really unclear how he wants to proceed. Can't be sure about
Oh,
that.
that's fine. Thank you for that answer. With that, Your Honor, I have no further questions and move to admit the court report with the attachments.
I have no objection.
No objection.
Thank you. They are received. Questions for this witness, Ms. Berger?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Skabinski, when was the referral sent to Brene, if you know?
December 5th.
So not too long ago.
Yeah, a little over a month ago.
Okay. You had mentioned that Dylan is not wanting parenting time right now with Vanessa. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And that he still needs to get a grasp on his mental health.
Yes.
Okay. Do you know what Dylan's IQ is?
His trauma assessment said that his IQ was 54.
Do you believe within IQ of 54 he ever will be able to understand his own mental health?
Yes. To the best of his ability, I believe he could.
And is that enough to get him to a point where he could safely live in the home?
Yes.
And what are you basing that on?
Dylan is working very hard on his mental health at DART. He's able to recognize how he feels towards his family. He has told his clinician at DART that he has feelings of being mad and sad with his family. So I think he can express how he feels in his own mental health.
Is he currently attending school?
Yes.
Is he on a regular IEP, or is he attending a special school for children that may be developmentally delayed?
He's attending a special school for children who are developmentally delayed.
And does he leave the facility to go to that school?
Yes.
Do they notice any behaviors while he's at school?
Yes, occasionally.
And what are those like?
I would say it's the same as the behaviors that he has at DART, where he harms himself or just becomes dysregulated.
Okay. Would you say that he's progressing at DART?
I would say yes, that he is.
Is he able to read?
Yes, he's able to read.
You know at what level?
I couldn't say at what level, but he read me an entire storybook before.
Okay. Okay. No further questions. Thank you.
Ms. Heiss?
Ms. Skabinski, there must have been a the name is escaping me right now, the Maximus evaluation for this child. Is that something that you can forward to me so I can review it? I may already have it, but I'm not finding it today.
Yeah, I'll look through what I have and find it and send it to you.
And then you talked about trauma assessment. Is that the same thing or is there a different trauma assessment for him?
He has a trauma assessment that he completed in March of last year in 2023.
I don't think I was on the case at that point. Was that before the case opened?
It may have been, maybe, yes.
Is that something, will you check and see if that's something that I can also have for my records, even as a baseline?
Yeah.
Document, thank you so much. And then, I have nothing further. Thank you.
I was just looking, I don't think I have that CTEC assessment either. So you may want to consider submitting that. I think we might have seen it maybe as part of the delinquency file at some point.
I wonder if the Maximus evaluation's in the delinquency file because we've got to be recertifying him through this case now that that case is dismissed. Gotta keep track of that.
That's part of what was set for today.
Okay.
But I didn't see that. I have a children's foster care residential updated service plan. I didn't see, unless that's is the formal assessment part of that, in your opinion, Ms. Gabensky, or is that a separate assessment that we would need to look for in the schedule?
I think we would need to schedule because I didn't submit anything for it, so.
Okay. Do you know when the last one, I mean, I know we had a hearing back in October, and I'm just looking at my notes. It doesn't look like we had,
I mean, he had a QRTP assessment completed when he went to DART in August.
okay.
Your Honor, if I may, we attached, there was an ex parte motion filed, I believe by the department on September 12th of 2023, in which the QRTP assessment was attached to that particular document.
Thank you.
I have the ex parte, but I don't have an attachment. I'm gonna open a second copy of my ex parte, but yep, I do have it in that place. Thank you very much. I don't think the CTAC is there though. Let's see, Maximus is there. The CTAC was probably, we must have seen it. It only makes sense that we saw it to get in there, but I just didn't know where my file was. So I do have my Maximus. Thank you. Save it just under that name too.
I do have, as of our our first regular review in October, that there was an initial 30-day report from DART that was reviewed that supported the court's findings at that time that QRTP remained necessary. And obviously there's some material here today that would help us understand that. And we of course have a representative from DART as well available for testimony. But you might want to look at your requirements. I don't know what they are offhand to determine whether or not you need a formal assessment or what that looks like.
Okay.
For my purposes, this DART report would suffice. I think we're not going to get anything more detailed, but we'll have to check and see if there is the rules anticipate an independent evaluation, but I think that's only every 12 months.
There is one. He had a QRTP in August, so I have one. I can send it to you.
All right. When can we look forward to our next report from the DART facility, if you know?
I do not know off the top of my head. She just sent me her USP not too long ago, maybe 1 month ago, so maybe 60 more days, I'm guessing.
But you're in regular contact with them?
Yeah.
Interesting. Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions based on my questions?
No.
No, Your Honor.
None.
All right. Thank you for your testimony. You may return to your seat.
Thank you.
Any other witnesses, Ms. Thomas?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Berger? Witness testimony today?
Yes, thank you. I would call Ms. Franklin. And are you currently counseling with Vanessa Eberly?
Yes, I am.
And did you prepare a sort of case plan or goals that you're working on with her?
I did. I sent it to Karen Yeah, I think she was gonna distribute it to everybody.
Yes, I do have that.
Okay, good.
Was that drafted based on Vanessa's psychological evaluation?
That was what I had done initially. There are some, I guess, could be some changes, but for the most part, that's what we're following right now.
Okay. And do you think those line up for the most part with her psychological recommendations?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Has she been consistent with her counseling with you?
Yeah, she has.
And has she talked to you about Dylan specifically?
Yeah, she has a lot.
And have you ever counseled with Dylan or talked with him?
No, I haven't.
Okay. And have you ever counseled children with low IQs?
I have.
And in your experience, is it a different approach that has to be taken with them versus a child with an average IQ?
Oh, definitely. Mhm.
Do you think, or I suppose, have you ever experienced counseling with a child with an IQ similar to Dylan's that has been successful?
I think, I think that he's always going to have these behaviors. They will, but hopefully with medication, the right kind of medication, the right types, he will level out somewhat, but I think you can pretty much anticipate a lot of dysregulation with him.
Okay. And is that due to his IQ, his mental health, a combination of
It's a combination. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any recommendations as far as Vanessa goes? Anything that she can work on individually in her own time?
I think she has been. We've been talking about like grounding techniques and she's been utilizing them. So we're bringing like different approaches in slowly, but she kind of has to master some of the grounding techniques kind of before adding on too many more. She was working on desensitization, I know, with her boyfriend. And but I think, and I did tell her this, I think it's too much because she needs to have a safe person to turn to. And if her brain kind of wires him as, an enemy or, something attached to a trauma, that's not going to be a good thing for her. So I do believe that they kind of backed off on that a little bit. But I mean, that was her effort. And I applaud her for that. That's wonderful that she was practicing those things.
Okay. Is there anything specific that you want to tell the court today?
I would encourage maybe a little more pushing with him to get him to have that relationship with his mom, because I know that he may be stating, I don't want to see her, but at the same time, you have to, I guess, take a look at, well, he might be angry with her just because he's away from her. I mean, there might be all kinds of different reasons. And if he can't verbalize exactly what he's feeling, if you sever that relationship, it's going to be very hard to heal it once, too much time goes on.
Okay. All right. I don't have any other questions for you, but some of the other lawyers may. Thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes, thank you. Ms. Franklin, can you hear me okay?
I can, yeah.
Okay, I'm just curious, are you happy to be trained in EMDR?
Yes, I am.
Is that a modality that you've considered using with Ms. Everly?
Yes, I have, yeah.
Okay, and has that started?
We're trying to start it. It seems like every time there's a little hiccup from her not being able to see him, it sends her back into like perseverating on missing him and wanting to see him and being worried about what's going on there. The unknown is kind of stalling it.
Okay. Thank you for that. I have no further questions.
Okay.
Ms. Franklin, in addition to the elements that you articulated, like IQ and his behavioral habits, doesn't environment also play a role in a child's outcome?
Oh, definitely.
Okay, so you're kind of working on the environment piece for us in a way. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And are you relying on her self-report as the only source of input for your counseling?
No, I was able to read all of the documents that she had sent to me. So I do have some understanding of the history. Although I haven't, I know there, sorry. I know there are times when she used a technique like holding him down in order to prevent him from either harming himself more or harming her. And I know that is like an intervention that is taught to people that work with children that are out of control. I don't, the extent of the timing, how long that was, I'm not sure. I would have to be like in the room to know, okay, is this over the top or is this like something that was necessary? It sounded to me like it was necessary, because he has, I guess in the past, made attempts to like hurt her, and definitely harm himself.
So you've talked to the mother and you've read paperwork. You've also talked to Ms. Skabinski, right?
Yeah.
And so you're understanding that the posture of the case, we're not debating whether there was a risk of harm that brought him into care. Are you debating that?
No.
Okay, and then go ahead.
My understanding was that she had wanted this, that she needed the extra help because she wasn't, she knew that he wasn't like functioning to where he could be.
Right, so what I'm worried about is getting 2 reviews down the way, and you don't know what we're hoping for from your work with Miss Eberly. What is your contact with this team? Ms. Skabinski, anything else?
Just the family treatment meeting that I attended.
Family team meeting?
Yeah.
So how are we going to communicate if part of the team thinks it's reasonable that she's not seeing Dylan and she and maybe you think that it is unreasonable? What format should we use to rectify that?
I don't know. I guess, what are you suggesting? That it's not like we focus on that in therapy. That's just something that's coming up because that's where she's at the moment.
Right, but what I'm worried about is you and she getting further down that line and we're getting further polarized, where
Right.
she thinks it's unfair and we're not communicating why we think it's fair and we're not hearing why she thinks it's unfair. So we're going in 2 different directions.
Well, I guess during our therapy, I don't feel like that's the case. She's just wanting to see him.
Okay. Okay, I don't have any other questions right now. Thank you.
So Ms. Franklin, you do have the psychological evaluation, is that right? Did I hear that right?
Yes, she did email that to me.
All right. Have you read the initial petition or any of the court reports that we've seen so far?
Let's see, I read she sent me a list or a document that was maybe 60 pages, and I skimmed through those. But I looked more at like what her psyche veil was.
Sure. Do you know if those documents included the CTEC evaluation of Dylan, which would, of course, lend some background information to you as well?
That doesn't sound familiar to me. I could check in the email.
Do you think that those documents would be useful to you?
Yes, I do.
Questions based on my questions?
No.
Not yet, Honor.
None, Your Honor, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Berger, anybody else you'd like us to hear from?
Vanessa, do you want to testify today?
Yes, please.
All right, Deputy. Thank you.
Did you hear the testimony from the caseworker today?
Yes, I did.
What would you like to add?
My thing is, like everybody has mentioned, that Dylan's just hasn't been in the mood to see me. So my confusion is, and what I've been asking this whole time is, what are they doing to help Dylan get motivated, or what are they asking him to help him want to come see me? Instead of just saying, no, Dylan, because I call 2-3 times a day and they're always like, Dylan doesn't want to talk to you at this time. And, and I've asked Elizabeth, okay, so what are you guys doing to, get him to want to see me, because eventually, he's supposed to be coming back home. I haven't seen him since October 10th. And it just seems like they're just keep saying, oh, Dylan's not ready to see you. Dylan's not ready to see you, which, yes, I understand it takes time, but if he's supposed to be coming back home and we're supposed to be working on, I'm supposed to be working on how to get better with him, I'm unable to do that. And it makes it harder for me to work on what I need to work on if I can't see him to know what I need to work on while I'm with him. So that's where I'm struggling.
Okay. And have you asked his therapist at DART what things she's recommending to him?
His therapist at DART is Elizabeth. Elizabeth is his caseworker and his therapist.
Okay. Have you asked her things?
I have, and she just said that they're working on what they need to work on him with, that he just needs time. He needs time, and I just need to be patient with him.
Okay. What else do you want to add today?
I know that I had mentioned about, I had just found out that obviously Elizabeth is his caseworker at DART along with his therapist. To me, that seems a little weird. I don't really like that idea, because to me that's a conflict of interest. Him being, I don't know what exactly her role is, so I guess maybe find out what her role of a caseworker is, case manager, because she's case manager and therapist.
Sure. If I told you that that happens on almost every single one of our cases, and that it's kind of normal, would you have any reason to disbelieve that?
I mean, to me it's weird. I mean, because it just seems like they're together too much. Like he needs his personal space with his caseworker and then his space with his therapist.
Okay.
So, I mean, if that's the way it is, that's the way it is. I think that's weird. I think that's a conflict of interest. It's just way too much time with one person. She's either a case manager or a therapist. Like, to me, that's weird, but it is what it is.
Okay. Did you receive the referral for services with Miss Moore?
Karen did tell me she sent in a referral for a lady, but that's as far as that went.
Okay. Why have you not contacted her?
I didn't get any contact information for her.
Okay. Do you have a pen and paper with you right now?
I can grab one, yep.
All right, Ms. Berger, would you mind passing along any contact information after we've completed our hearing?
Yep, I wasn't going to, Judge.
Thank you.
Yep, I just wanted to make sure that she's aware that the referral is sent to Brene Moore.
Yeah, Karen did tell me that she sent the referral in sometime in December.
Okay, and do you plan to engage that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and do you plan to do that by the end of this month?
Hopefully I can swoop it in. Yes, I will do my best.
Okay. Is there anything else that you want to share with the court today?
I did have a question about the whole my my pay stubs and giving Karen my my hours. Is she still gonna need to have my pay stubs once a week because I get paid?
So
And
that'll be something that we talk about not in court right now.
Okay,
Are you willing to provide all that information to her?
I've been giving it to her. I was just curious of why she still needed my schedule because I'm not scheduling to see Dylan. And I guess that's one of the reasons when we first got him in there, that's one of the reasons why she said she needed my schedule is to work around my schedule to visit to go see Dylan.
Sure. Okay. Okay. I have no other questions for you, but some of the other attorneys may, okay?
All right, thank you.
Ms. Thomas,
I have no questions, thank you.
Ms. Heiss.
No questions, thank you.
All right. Anyone else you'd like us to hear from, Ms. Berger?
Yes, Ms. Wickland.
I can.
And you are Dylan's case manager and counselor, is that correct?
That is correct. I'm a clinical case manager here with DART.
And do those two roles fall together for this child?
They fall together in this program, and it's kind of the standard for Hope Network.
Can you share a little bit more about techniques that you've employed to help encourage Dylan to explore continuing his relationship with his mother?
Yeah, we when we meet for therapy, we review situations and try to look at what led up to times of him becoming dysregulated. We then discussed different alternatives of coping skills that he can use in place of being dysregulated. We practice those coping skills in the therapy sessions. We role play those, as well as I've tried some guided meditation with him as well, and he has responded well to that technique. He is often quiet, but he has been saying more about his feelings, about his family, and about contact with them. So he definitely has seemed more comfortable and more in sharing of more information.
Okay. And does he say why he doesn't want contact?
The time when he has spoken about the phone calls that come, and he has stated that he does not want to check on the phone because he's afraid that they're mad at him and they're going to yell at him and speak harshly to him.
To the best of your knowledge, has that happened during phone calls?
He's not had phone calls. So what I say in response to him is I assure him that when I have spoken to his mom and dad, that they only express care and concern for him, and that they really want to speak to him and they love him and miss him.
Okay. Would it be harmful to have phone visitations at this point?
If he is unwilling, there is potential for harm. Yes.
Have they been offered to him in a way where he feels like he can accept that?
They are offered to him each time that they call. So.
Okay. Like, does someone go to him and say, hey, your mom's on the phone, do you want to talk to her?
Yes.
Okay. And he always says no?
Correct.
What's he doing those times?
A variety of things, involved in different activities on the milieu. He could be playing in his room. Maybe just got back from a meal. They've called it all different hours. So it's never one specific thing that he's doing.
Okay. If it were a proposition to him, basically to say, it's time for the phone call with your mom, do you think he would accept that, or would he say he doesn't want to do that?
When I've propositioned him to just write her a letter, he has declined. So I would infer from that if I offered or stated it was time to make a phone call, he most likely would decline as well.
Have you had success in counseling children with a low of his IQ as him?
Yes, I have.
Okay. No other questions. Thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Thomas?
I have no questions, thank you.
Ms. Heiss?
No questions, thank you.
Okay. Ms. Wickland, do you generally have limits on how many times a parent or a person can try to contact one of your residents? Is 3 times a day disruptive to him? Is there anything that we need to do or should be doing to help support Dylan, around that piece?
It is concerning if it really is 3 times a day, every single day. I mean, that would be 21 times in a week. It's possible that type of persistent request is continuing to keep him upset. I never like or enjoy or want to limit parental contact when it's positive and supportive. I have continued to encourage Miss Everly and Mr. O'Connor to email letters to him. And, I always reply back when the result of the letter and any feedback that he has given. I would caution on calling 3 times a day. I understand and can really understand her desire to have contact. But it is a big concern of him remaining in a dysregulated state. He has been off safety precautions since this past Friday, but over the last 30 days, he has been on safety precautions for most of the time, due to his dysregulation, self-harming behavior. And, we can go back and kind of look at those behaviors. I have a behavior analysis team here that can take a look at that. And when those phone calls have come in to see if there is a connection to it. But, I think the letters are a more supportive way. It's at least the message is established and, can be shared. I have only received 1 letter from Mr. O'Connor, and it was very positive. It had a lot of detail in it and good information that I thought he, would really enjoy hearing. So yeah, but there is a concern for it. And I guess the concern, to be more, detailed about that, is if his behaviors were to escalate much beyond where they're at now and to a point where we're not able to manage his behaviors here, then a more secure, psychiatric setting would have to be considered for him. And we are not close to that. So I'm not stating that that's a recommendation. I'm just stating that pushing something that he is not interested in, pushing something that he's not willing to engage in a healthy way could be harmful. And that would be probably the most clear harm, is him escalating in a way that we wouldn't be able to sustain him here. I do think we're making small bits of progress. Since he's off precautions on Friday this weekend, he was able to go to the movies. He went on a van ride. He did have dysregulation last night. I didn't look at the phone record to see if there was phone calls related to that or not. But it also, they called me. I happened to be on call, so I got that call and was aware of the situation that he was in. I kind of thought there might have something to do with returning to school today, just that transition after being off for 2 weeks. And that's a big change to be going back to school. So yeah, but there are bits of progress, and he has been saying more to me about his feelings about family and how he feels about them.
Do you have it within the authority of your services that you're provided to make that decision as to whether or not to offer that? Or if you look at let me put it this way, if you look at that and you see that correlation, do you feel you have it within your own authority to handle that? Or do you need, or would it be useful to you for the court to note that in the order that the contact must be at your discretion, for example?
I believe it is in the court order that you have stated that already, that it is in my discretion. I think if you wanted to be more specific, that would be very helpful. I do feel like it's in my authority to state that and to assess that and give a professional opinion on it. At the same time, I would want to do that kind of in consult with the care team. I think it's important that this professional care team is on the same page. I think for us to discuss it in FTM and to, to be able to state the reasons of why that's would be an important change to make. but I can state for the record today that, you know, maybe calling twice a week would be more helpful and more beneficial to Dylan than 3 times a day.
All right, thank you. Any questions based on my questions? No?
No, Your Honor.
None, Judge.
All right, thank you for your testimony. Anyone else you'd like us to hear from, Ms. Berger?
That's all. Thank you.
Ms. Heiss?
No witnesses today, thank you.
All right, comments?
Your Honor, at this time, Dylan or the youth is in need of a residential treatment program. I believe that once the youth is in the program, a QRTP assessment needs to be done on an annual basis. I think that we're still in a good period of time. I know that this court must consider the documents that are presented at every review hearing and permanency planning hearing as to whether that program is still appropriate for this youth. And I think based on the report that was provided by DART and the report that was given by Ms. Skabinski, it's clear that this youth, the program is the least restrictive environment to ensure this youth's safety and the safety of the community at this point. So for those reasons, we are asking the court to continue to approve that placement. We are also asking for a standard 90-day review. I think there's been some really good things happening in this case, including the establishment of paternity through a biological mean. I know that we've sort of left that. I think we've sort of left that off the table today and had any testimony from Mr. O'Connor, but I believe we, given the DNA tests that you have now, the court has before it, we would ask the court to make him the legal father, and or otherwise schedule a putative father hearing to see if he's taken any steps for the next 14 days to establish that legal relationship. We ask that the court continue to allow the DART program to make those recommendations about parenting time. One of the things that has been talked about in family team meetings is whatever was happening in the past was not working for this youth. And so although this is, for some it might seem counterintuitive to prolong the separation between the youth and the parents, it is something that the professionals are wanting and are recommending, and we can remain hopeful that a change from what has normally presented this family will provide longstanding change, and that they will be able to have reunification in a way that is healthy and I guess long-term, rather than us being back here and more people as part of the team. So we just ask for that 90-day review. Thank you.
Ms. Berger?
Thank you, Judge. We would agree that the minor child is in need of residential treatment. However, I'm going back and forth on the idea of parenting time with my client. Obviously, she wants contact with this child. I am unaware if he will ever feel like he isn't going to be in trouble or upset with mom for being where he is. And a lot of that has to do with his cognitive ability. If he can't understand that we're not going to be mad at him, even if that is said, then he's probably never going to say he wants contact. And because of his age and his stage of development, I teeter back and forth on requesting an order for contact and waiting for him to be ready for that. At this point, we've waited 6 months and he's not ready. And I fear we may time out before that gets to, before that comes up and before he might say that, or he might never say that. So we are asking for another review period, but I am asking for a formal order of parenting time for at least 1 hour once a week. Thank you.
Ms. Heiss?
Thank you, Your Honor. The court is required to involve family in residential treatment. This agency has been having family team meetings every time we turn around. We're all meeting and we're all discussing all these things so that we are in contact with each other. The father is aware that this is a DNA, that there has been DNA, and I believe he intends to become the legal father of this child. I think that although direct contact with Dylan at this time is not beneficial to him, And yet mother's concerns are constantly on the table, and she has a lot of access to the agency to articulate her concerns. We can't do both things, progress with Dylan and force him into a square peg into a round hole. You know, he is, we had a family team meeting with, the school was there, and they just really praised how much strength this child has. And we learned all about his school environment. So I say that we trust the process longer and let, one of the things that came up is if Dylan doesn't want to go to school, what if Dylan doesn't want to do this? Well, the response from the treatment facility was, this isn't, nobody can physically pick him up and carry him to school and put him down. It's not a lockdown facility. But I think that was kind of interpreted that Dylan gets to do whatever Dylan wants, and that wouldn't be the case. That's not a healthy for any child. And the treatment facility is charged with, as a residential service provider, charged with his continuing his education. So the conversation is available for this mother. At this time, the child is articulating, he's not even articulating as much as his behaviors are disrupting. And I want to remind you, when we say disrupting, you know, this child hits himself in the head to the extent that he's just got a bruised face, or he does other injurious behavior that he needs to be protected from the stressors that dysregulate him. I think the residential, I've been there for him and for other children. Ms. Wicklund is available anytime you need to ask really ridiculous questions. Like this time I asked, who's hugging the child, you know? And this man who's in charge of him said, you know, we have this opportunity for a side hug, but you know, it talked me through how important and critical his care is, and will eventually he'll get hugs when his mom can come back in and that kind of thing. And it isn't critical to his survival at this point. So I feel that the agency even allows me to ask ridiculous questions. He had a nice Christmas. He had a lot of toys. So anyway, I would ask you to continue to not make a visitation order at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, the court finds all interested parties were given notice and the opportunity to be here today. I appreciate our service providers like Ms. Franklin and Ms. Wicklund coming in to give us firsthand information about what's been happening with the family and the progress. All of those pieces, as well as the testimony of Ms. Skibensky and the reports that were admitted today, certainly constitute reasonable efforts towards the goal of reunification. I will recognize that Michael O'Connor is the legal father of this child as a result of the DNA testing that was taken into the record today. We'll leave it to the department to decide how to move on his rights and whether or not to move on his rights moving forward. I do, as far as I understand, this is still a couple that's planning together, if you will. So if the goal is reunification, even the modicum of information that I have about what was happening in that home at the time this child was removed would suggest to me that he could potentially benefit from services, whether that's on a voluntary basis or an involuntary basis. I suppose we'll have to see. I'm sure Ms. Skibensky can have a little left to him on that and figure that piece out. She's so inclined, but we'll leave it to the department to see what's happening on that front. And that's because in the meantime, Dylan at DART at the Hope facility is in the least restrictive placement. It is meeting his needs. It's necessary and appropriate at this time for that residential placement to be continued. This is, in the court's opinion, the first place that we've seen any modicum of success with Dylan in the last couple of years that he's been subject to the jurisdiction of this court, both under this particular case, but also under the delinquency case. We have a number of petitions for delinquent behavior that had been filed and pending against Dylan until we were able to understand really his level of competency. I would note for your information, Ms. Berger, that in the initial evaluation completed by DART, they suspect that Dylan's IQ may be significantly higher than what it is. That at the time the CTAC was completed, that he was effectively, and these are my words, in crisis and had some issues that may have gotten in the way of him being able to demonstrate what his actual IQ is. So that's very encouraging information. It's encouraging that the level of the frequency of his behavioral outbursts are reducing. Not only do we have the concern for Dylan's own personal safety, but I know, having taken a couple of emergency calls on this case, that other people have also been seriously injured because of Dylan's inability to regulate himself, including, I believe, at least 2 nurses that were trying to help Dylan and ended up in the hospital themselves with at least one with a very serious injury. So it's absolutely imperative that Dylan be given the space to develop the skills that he needs to self-regulate. So visitation, and in fact, frankly, any contact between Ms. Vanessa Everly and Dylan should only be at the discretion of and authorized by Ms. Wickland or her care team after very considered analysis, which she has certainly demonstrated she's able to do, both in the written forms and reports that I've heard, but also in her testimony today. She's demonstrated that she's extremely competent in that area, and so we will leave it to her to make sure that she's able to continue to put into place a pathway for Dylan to improve in overcoming the barriers that he has to entering back into the community. Connected to that, I would like to just remind Ms. Vanessa Everly that she needs to focus on what brought her under the jurisdiction of the court. I listened carefully to Ms. Franklin's testimony. I have read her report. I have looked through the court report. And I see really that the focus, at least today, appears to be on whether or not she can see this child, and even the focus in therapy, the notes look like there's a focus on trauma that may have occurred because he was in her home. And that's the wrong focus. I need, Ms. Everly, I need you looking at your own contributions to the behaviors that happened with Dylan, for the gaps in your own parenting, and your own personal trauma history before Dylan was even part of the picture, so that you're able to step into a space where you can process what's happening with your son in your life currently in a way that's safe for him to return into your care. To put it another way, if Dylan were ready for discharge right now, I would not authorize him to be returned into your home, because I see no progress in the area of parenting classes, parenting education, or even real progress in your therapy with Ms. Franklin, given you're sort of spinning your wheels about this business about seeing Dylan or not. It's also an indication to me that you're not seeing Dylan's needs. You have to take it into perspective, and just as I do, what he needs right now. What he needs right now is to develop his own skill set to recover from the chaos and trauma that he had before he got to DART, and he needs a little space to do that. So that's not too much to ask, and we're going to give that to him, both clinically, professionally, and anecdotally. And I hope to see you focus on what you need to do to bring him home into a safe and stable environment in the next report period. In the meantime, I certainly find we do have reasonable efforts, and a very diligent advocate with Ms. Heiss as our guardian ad litem, our attorneys as well. Thank you for your efforts, and we will allow Dylan to continue his efforts in residential pending our next review hearing. And that will be, do we want to also set this one on the 22nd at 10:30?
That's fine with me.
22nd wasn't good for you.
Yes, so that's March 22nd at 10:30. Are you still available to us, Ms. Berger, at that time?
Yes, Jenner, thank you.
Okay, so we'll just look at this case again, the qualified residential treatment programming, and progress, if any, by both parents before we come back on the 22nd, and I look forward to those updates. Thank you again to all of our professionals and participants, and that's all for today.
Thank you.